8:30 a.m. I'll call the Public Welfare Subcommittee meeting to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Brooks.
Present.
Councilor Dernalowitz.
Present.
Councilor Mack.
Present. Is anybody recording today's meeting? Seeing none, item 1, reading of the minutes for prior meetings, April 30th, 2024, May 20th, 2024, May 22nd, 2024, August 15th, 2024.
I move we waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Today's meeting is for department updates. As we have not met in a while, our first department update will be Stephanie Young for the library.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's see. So first of all, I just have a couple of things I wanted to pass out to everybody for your reading pleasure. This is a final copy of our strategic plan. I have one for you for the minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome. We are very pleased with this. It is on file with the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and it has been accepted. And this is the report I am going to give to you today. Copy for the minutes. All right. I'm just going to take this off. So, I guess the first update is that I am transitioning out of being library director. I unfortunately have some commitments at home that I have to take care of. So next week, we're going to be in the process of interviewing some new directors. The trustees have asked that I stay on and help with that process. And I'm willing to stay on and help train the person as well. So I don't have an official end date yet. We're doing the best we can. I want to make sure that I'm able to help with a healthy transfer of leadership. This report that I'm giving you has been adapted from the 6-month update that I turned into the mayor. So I thought this was a great starting point to talk about some of the things that I've been going over at the library the last 6 months, and some goals and some things we should meet in the future. So if we talk about state requirements to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, I think the library needs to continue to collaborate the association with the city to create a budget that satisfies the state aid library program certification. And we talk about this every year. Part of that certification requirement is making sure that our material expenditure requirement, that whatever our bottom line of the city budget is, that 15% is being expended on materials that circulate to patrons. They can also be digital materials and technological things that patrons use. We met that goal this year. The other goal that we need to meet, that we're not meeting, is being open 50 hours a week at a minimum. We're open the lowest we can be and still maintain our certification, which is 45 hours a week. By doing this, we receive 12.5% less state aid every year. And the years prior, we weren't quite meeting the material expenditure requirements. So there was 25% less that we were getting off of the bottom line from state aid. So that's one thing to consider. That would be a very large, it would be a funding commitment from the city to get to those 50 hours a week, because that would mean staffing. I think this staffing requirement could be maintained with a few more part-time employees, so there wouldn't be any needed benefits that the city would have to pay for, which could be a more cost-effective way to kind of approach it. So that's something maybe we can talk about more if you have any questions, and please feel free to stop me if you do have questions. We can go into that. Yeah.
I just have one. The
Yep.
25% they're losing of state aid. Do you know how much that is?
I think last year, so when we lost 25% last year, it was about $14,000. This year, our paperwork is into the state, and they just did their first round of state aid certification, but because we are not at 100% full compliance, we go to the end of the line, and we won't get our first award until the third round, no matter how soon we get that paperwork in. So that's another thing about not making the 100%. We don't get our state aid right away. They kind of hold us off. So if numbers are the same, we get about, last year we got a little under $60,000. So we could have had $14,000 more. This year, we're expecting probably around the same. I don't know what the figures will be. But knowing that we made the material expenditure requirement, it would be about $7,000 that we would lose instead of the $14,000 if we're using last year's numbers.
And the cost to keep the library open the extra 5 hours a week.
Well, and that's the thing, that's an investment, more than just investment into open hours, because open hours translate into more services for the city and for the people. Access to late nights or more hours on Saturdays throughout the summer, which we're not able to currently fund right now. I think that's gonna be roughly like $90,000, which is a big number. But in the end, is it, what you're able to put in and how the library services all ages in the community. It doesn't matter who people are. So, but again, that is up to what the city would like to do. And so if it is something, I think you can see the third goal, the benchmark that I was talking about, is maybe develop a 3-year funding timeline. Can we increase it, a little bit over the next 3 years? And in doing that, I also see a need to pull in a part-time young adult librarian who could start doing more teen services. This last summer, we started launching teen programming, which is something the library hadn't done before. And I personally ran an escape room, and we had 12 teens show up, which was like a huge surprise, the amount of teens who participated. And I think there's not as many programs for teens in the city, so that we have an opportunity to help serve that age group. And that actually came out in the long-range plan, so there is information about that in that documentation. So that's going to bring me into the strategic plan. Beginning in April, we used a consultant, Deb Holdley. The association hired her to conduct focus groups and phone interviews. We had a survey that went out. She talked with the trustees, she talked with the mayor, she talked with the superintendent of schools. And then in June, that survey had 304 responses. Patrons reported wanting more open hours and more programming. So to provide this, the library would need to increase salary line items and hire some part-time positions. If the library increases hours by 5%, the city will meet the MBLC's open hours requirement. This would increase state aid award by 12.5%. We're not currently meeting that. So that's the other thing. They do want more programming. We have been offering more programming over this last year since I've been there, and we are getting so much positive feedback from that. We're trying to hit other age groups and do more adult programming and young adult programming. Again, it's a huge opportunity, but why we need more staff members in the building, because staff members are pulled away to be running those programs. So we have to be in the room, and we have to put staff time into the prepping and to doing the programming, but we also have 3 desks that we have to maintain enough people at so that there's safety in the building as well. So it's a balance of trying to meet all of that, but I think it can be done. And some great policy improvements that the trustees and I've worked on. We went fine-free as of May 15th, which really removes barriers to access to the library and ensures that all community members can benefit from resources and services. So people still have to pay for books if they lose them, but the 10 cents a day or $1 a day, if they're a few days late because they don't have transportation to get to the library or whatever reason, they're still able to not have fines and use the library. And we've been seeing a lot more people. We've had a lot of positive feedback from that. We're allowing more flexibility in the library. We're using the library lawn for programming. People are allowed to have beverages in the building. We revised our study room use policy. Room use has tripled. It was only being used for tutoring, and now people can have meetings in there. They can be working from home, but maybe their internet's not working, so they can have conference calls in the study rooms, and it's been great to see those rooms flourish and being used all of the time. Some English learning language classes have been going on as well. Accessibility in the building is something I've been working to improve, and I'm very happy to report as of last week, we have accessible entryways in all 7 entryways in the building. I worked with the mayor. We were able to get $27,000 from ARPA funding, and they covered, that mostly covered the doorway work. We're using, it's a little over, but about $1,800 from state aid funds to cover the remaining of that. And then the association is covering all of the electrical work, which came in around $9,500. So that whole project is done. The doorways are accessible, which is a huge thing because I've watched so many people struggle with those heavy doors to get in and out of the building, whether they're in chairs or trying to use strollers or for any reason. So I'm really happy to say that that's going on. And I had applied for an operational grant from the Mass Cultural Council on behalf of the association. It hasn't been awarded yet. I don't know if we'll get it or not. They're saying they're going to let us know by November, so we have another few weeks left. If we do get it, those funds are earmarked to help work on the HVAC system and some of the other things. Our building turned 20 years old last month, and so some of our systems need some work. And with that, sometimes the state aid funding is used for that. But I also just want to point out when we're doing our budget, the state aid funding is going right into the repairs and maintenance line item because the association, the city have a really great balance of how we work together. But last year, we used most of the state aid funding award from last year to cover the budget. Our heating and our fuel and electric lines were about $14,000 over budget, so I had to take that from state aid to cover. Plus, we were already covering the repairs and maintenance, so it gets tricky. I think in the future, if we could have some more funding for the cost of heating, which is going up and up, that would help us balance our budget a little bit more. We did work with the mayor and John and Josh Cormier to get on the city's electric rates. So our electric bill has gone down, but it's still not covering that overage. And then just some good news about, we've been really working with a lot of community partners to do programming. The plan is to still continue to do that. We have increased programming attendance. If you look down at the bottom of the second page, the number of programs in FY23 were 222. In FY24, there are 306. And then that participation really jumped. So in FY23, we had 3,045 people. In FY24, it jumped up to 5,429 people at those programs. So we're really hoping to continue that line of programming. And then our summer reading this year, we had 287 children sign up for summer reading. We had 26 teens sign up for summer reading and 156 adults. So people could sign up for the reading club, and we had some great prizes that ended up being raffled off, and local businesses donated those prizes. And Judy, you also gave me a donation, which was really appreciated, to get some gift certificates that we were able to do. And the feedback from the adults was so much fun because they got to play too. So there's been a lot going on. I don't know if you have any questions. There's a lot of information.
I just think that what you've done and what is going on with your staff at the library has been tremendous. I just think that the trustees with the mayor and, with the work of the city council, I just think there's ways to be creative, fiscally and financially to come up with ways to keep, I think it's important to find a way to keep the library open on Saturdays in the summer.
I agree.
I really do. And it may be in the summer cutting down the evening hours a little bit. You just, sometimes there has to be a little trade-off, but you just have to be creative. And maybe it's, you talked about the electric bill, maybe it's looking at, solar on the building as we've done with other city buildings to cut costs or anything. But I just think there are ways, and it's a great service to the city, and the city's gonna have to put more money towards it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the bottom line.
I think the tricky bit also, I think working in the public sector, people also come to work here because there's great benefits being offered, right? We have the sick incentive leave, people have healthy sick time, they have healthy vacation time, and so that's staff liability that we have to cover. And we want to make sure there's a culture in the library that says, yeah, please use your time, like this is your time, you can use it, but that means we have to cover the building. And that gets really tricky, and I think we do that really well and maintain services, but we're stretched really tight on that. So to get creative, to be open on Saturdays with the current budget we have in the summer, to be open on Saturdays in the summer with the current budget and the liabilities and the time everybody's using, I think we're at our maximum capacity. So like we will need more funding to be able to do that.
How many high school students do employ as pages?
We do not at this moment in time.
Okay, because
Yeah.
that was a huge,
Yes.
in the 70s and 80s, that was a huge part of having the library open at nights and on weekends.
Yeah.
Was to have, because I was one of them, was to have 2 pages on.
Yeah, and it's tricky because pages are an important part of the library and making sure that the library is well shelved and organized. But now there's an entire there's an electronic library in the world, and we have access to so much patron data. And so we work very hard to protect patron privacy and intellectual freedom and all of those things that pages aren't having access to the computers and running that information. And so that there has to be a balance. Like we could use that help. And I do think as part of our long-range plan and looking at our priorities every year, we will be turning action plans into the state. I think getting a healthy volunteer base with teens going forward is something we're looking at doing as well. But you can't run a library on volunteers either. We need trained staff who can use the computers and maintain very important standards of librarianship.
I agree.
I don't particularly have any questions, and obviously sad to hear that you're going to be leaving us. It's fantastic work you've been doing there. Just, I mean, the programs alone, you talked about the increase in the number of programs and participation. I know there's a bit of more of a buzz around the library of it's a place to go and things to do there. So I hope you do help do a great job picking someone to replace you. But thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to disclose that I am a member of the Board of Trustees for the Library Association. And I was on the committee that interviewed Steph when we were looking for someone to fill the library director's position. We were very excited to hire her, and more disappointed when she said that she had to leave. I understand. But I think in the year that she's been here, there's been a tremendous change in the library. A lot more programs, activities, a lot more interest in what's going on. And I think that helps then to garner support to do more with the library.
Agreed.
The financial piece is a tough one because if I, from my background, I look at the whole city budget, and the city budget's not going to be having any wiggle room for about another 7 or 8 years when the pension liability is paid off. So in the meantime, we just have to be careful as to what we're doing and how we're doing it. But I think if the library is running successful programs, then it makes it easier to justify putting more money into the library. And Steph mentioned about the association and what it pays for and what the state aid pays for. And I think the association, kind of overseeing things, has tried to make sure that we're not relying on the state aid for operational purposes. That's more of the cushion we grab if we need it or something else comes up. And then using library association funds for
The building.
any of the building projects and so on. And we're fortunate to have those funds available, and I'm hopeful it will keep.
But I think as inflation has hit all of us really hard, and prices of things have gone up, I think that that best practice of not fully relying on state aid for operational costs is a thing of the past. I think we are doing that, and I think that's a hard truth that we need to face.
Right.
We are using almost that full allotment of state aid to cover operational costs, and it's not best practices.
Correct.
But it's what's happening, and sometimes during hardship, you have to make concessions and you have to know. But it's important to have the conversation and saying, this is a conscious decision that we're doing this at this moment in time because of hardship, but we have to have a plan to come out of it, because if you just always do it and don't talk about it, it's just gonna become the practice.
Correct, so I think it's important that we do give enough to keep operating. And just one final thing is, as Steph mentioned, the library building is 20 years old. So I've been told that I cannot refer to it as the new library anymore, just as I cannot refer to the new high school, to the high school as the new high school. So
Yeah.
it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I understand the situation the city is in financially, but my viewpoint has always been such things as the pool and the library. We have to continue to realize that these assets are what our citizens are using. And those are the things that we need to continue to support and fund and find creative ways
I agree.
to support them, because these are the things that draw people to move into our city, like the golf course and things. These are what our people are using. And those are the things that are important, and sometimes we have to be creative. We have grant writers, and we don't think of always thinking, are they supporting these other aspects of our city that offer services to our citizens besides DPW and all these other departments. And we have we just have to value them, because I may not go to the library every day, but I am so impressed with what's going on there. And as sad as I am about Steph leaving, family comes first, and I've always believed that. And she was brought here for a reason, and you don't know what the future will bring, and she might be back here someday, but she has put us on such, I think she's brought so much to our attention of what the needs are in the city. And I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate everything that you've done.
It's been my pleasure to serve in Gardner. This has been a fabulous job to have, and I am sad to go. But Gardner has so many really cool things going on, and the library can end up being a help to be a connector to that. I think coming out of this long-range plan, it was decided that the library is the connecting point. We can connect people to the information, to the other organizations, and just be a hub for that. And I think you'll find a small investment into the library compared to all the other budgets in the cities, especially during hard economic times. Like, people can come to the library and use it for free. They can read the newspapers, they can check out books, there's museum passes. We are the cheapest place to fax. People are faxing things for food stamps, for work things. We have free internet. People might not be able to afford the internet, and they can come to the library and use a computer if they can't afford that. And I think going over the next couple of years, you talked about 7 years, the city's gonna have a hard time. That means people are also having a hard time, and they're gonna need those services, and the library can do that. And I think the great thing about libraries is that we do a lot with a little, but we're not always great about touting how great we are. So we just need to remember that. And I think that the long-range plan and all of the policies the trustees and I have worked on over the last year has laid some strong groundwork for a new director to come in and keep the pace going. And I believe that will happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Golf Course Commission, Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll probably be shorter than that,
You have your handouts?
if you guys can believe that. I'll text you later. Believe it or not, golf is still booming. Whatever COVID did, forcing people outdoors, it stuck. And that was kind of a question we had from the very beginning. Is this gonna be a flash in the pan, or is this a real thing? it seems like it's a real thing. We ended up with almost 800 members this year, 790 something, which is incredible. That equates directly to financial stability, which is, we're an enterprise budget. We talk about this every time, probably more for the financial side, but it's important to note with the things that we're doing, that we probably netted around $245,000 this year, which is huge. So to get that surplus up to a number of 900,000 or $1 million, you would have never thought, right? That's just forcing people to do things that they had never done before and that now they like. Another big part of that is the juniors and the families. We had a banner year as far as young men and women on that golf course. The youth membership price is still really affordable, so it brings them out, and there's different membership brackets within that. So a ton of young kids, a ton of families, moms and dads come out because of the kids. We hosted free junior clinics, which was the first time in a long time, and that is free. Opens up to the driving range and gets a lot of people out there. The weather cooperated, not if you like rain, but when it doesn't rain, play a lot of golf. And we really haven't gotten any rain since June. Our water bill will reflect in that. I think kind of like Steph was saying, costs are still up on everything. Everything is expensive. We'll be meeting with the Golf Commission, Jeff Gallant, to tweak the budget. But we've spent more money than we ever have, and we will probably continue to do that. Things are more expensive. It costs more when you're open more, and we're gonna spend money. We're buying a plow truck this year for almost $80,000. We haven't had a new plow truck in 30 years. We're gonna be preventative on some of the HVAC type stuff. We're gonna replace a 30-year-old condensing unit and heating unit and furnace in the maintenance shop. We're not gonna wait until it breaks like we used to do, because then it just gets expensive, and then you scramble to do it the right way. So we're gonna reinvest some of that money. And I think that's one of the nice sales points of a municipal golf course is we keep the membership costs low, but we show people that we put the money and reinvest it right back into the golf course. It's not like a private sector owner where they do what they want with it. We show them that if we made $245,000, we put a chunk to the side in the surplus so that we're making sure that we're open for the next 10 years. But look what we do, we reinvest in the people, in the training, in the buildings, in the infrastructure, and we just keep it rolling. So we could use a little bit of rain, but other than that, another great year. You know, we try to open in April and close at Thanksgiving, and it seems like with this weather trend we've got, that we're going to continue to do that. So sustainable, but reinvesting is kind of the theme over the last couple of years and going forward. We don't know exactly what we're going to do with certain buildings, like the restaurant building. That's a big question mark. You had mentioned solar. That's something that I would love to sit down and explore for the golf course, because electric is without a doubt one of, if not our biggest costs, and it's not going to change. So solar is something we would look into. But other than that, just proceed.
Councilor Bernowitz.
I don't have anything. As a member of the golf commission, I do
We talk a lot.
talk to Bill quite a bit, so I kind of know what's happening.
So, as you can probably surmise, I'm pleased that there's a substantial surplus, because I remember at a point when the golf course was darn close to zero, and I was working with the superintendent, Mike Hermanson, at the time to finagle some things to just get them through a fiscal year in order to get to the other side and begin to rebuild it. We knew we were gonna. I think the golf course is a tremendous asset for the city, and it's, I'm pleased that families and kids are playing, because I think that's what municipal golf course should be. It should be about people in the community. I mean, it always was to me, the guys in the factory that would get out of work at 4 and go up to the golf course and play, or on Saturday mornings, because they always got up at 5, they got up at 5 and played golf. And I think having that accessibility is important and makes for a much richer community. So I'm pleased that it's coming along.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm just a huge fan of the course. I mean, especially, I love to hear about the junior golfers because that's how my family started, as junior golfers. And, you know, I think of my mom who can't walk right now was out there at walking the course because you couldn't go out to a certain time unless you had a parent with you. And she used to carry my brother's bag and walk 18 holes because he wanted to get out there early. And that's what family was, and that's what you did, and it became just a tradition and special time that people have. It's an amazing asset. I love going by out there and seeing it. I am a huge proponent, and I've been very vocal about, you know, a new building for a restaurant and everything. I think I'd love to see, you know, the commission work with the mayor and the council to have tie bond. I'd love to see a design get started. It's being talked about, but I think you know, we can talk and talk and talk, but I think it's you know, some action needs to be taking place, and you know, and just find out what's out there and what the options are. Because that's one thing about the welfare committee. We oversee some of, you know, the best assets of the departments of the city, and we get to see, you know, changes and proposed changes in services to our citizens. But I think that's really the next step, because I think there are really, you know, positive things that can continue to happen. I wanted to ask you, all that new equipment you got about a year ago, did everything come in and everything's in working
Everything
order?
came in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gently breaking stuff.
Well, that was my next step, are those things still in working order?
They are. So we're moving forward in a good way. Yeah,
All right.
so it's all come in, and we're gonna continue to upgrade that little by little. We started with the big stuff.
Yeah.
Now we can just fill in those little cracks in between the big stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay, all right. I just, you know, I knew you had to order it so far in advance to make sure you got it, and I just, you know, we all know what the supply chain is right now, and so, but no, you and your crew do a great job, and you know, we just gotta continue to plan for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Conditions are fantastic. The junior golf is, we have 6 teams playing there, if you count those.
6 teams,
Two in
yeah,
the spring,
depending on the
4 in the fall. I know there's a lot more. I see a lot more of those kids out there together playing and getting better. Some of the teams are pretty good there. For those at home, the current restaurant, and people don't go up there, it's used to be the 1772 house, and the reason it was the 1772 house is because it's a house from 1772.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal for running a restaurant or holding any kind of functions at a golf course. So, as you spoke to Councilor Mack, it's a need there. It is something.
Definitely. It is not accessible,
It is not.
to say the least.
Fairly upright.
Yeah. And, but golf is a lifelong sport, so having those young golfers there is just, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your time.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
So,
We'll go with Cable Commission, Mr. Josty, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. On a side note, golf, talking about that, my son who just went to college as a freshman this year, the last thing he wanted to do with me before he started classes was go play around the golf. So, and he thought he was gonna be better than me, but he wasn't that time. Thank you very much for having me. I don't have one of the fancy formal reports, I just
That's
kind of
okay.
put together my thoughts. First, starting off with some of the things we talked about at the annual budget meeting, we have now purchased an annual licensure. As computer stuff goes now, I have to repay it, so it's gonna be in my budget going forward, for the Adobe production stuff, to be able to do the graphics. And I don't know if you've seen, like on the mayor's update, we have new graphics, we have new openings and stuff for sports, that Shane's been able to create by using that Adobe editor to be able to make those openings and make those graphics and things. We only bought one license because they're about $450 a piece for a year. So we have set it up on Shane's computer where he's more apt at the modern graphics compared to what I was doing. Even though we're the same age, it's just he likes the graphics and I was never a graphics guy, so he likes to do it, so we gave it to him to do. We've continued with some more sports. Last year we were able to do Shane brought in the love of doing sports, so we've worked out with schedules and things like that, so that he's maybe not in during the day as much when he has sports to do. Last year we were able to do boys and girls basketball. We do the work on the home games, and try to get at least one a week of each team or something, how we can figure it out. We did boys basketball, girls basketball, hockey last year. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to do anything during the spring, but we did do football this year for home games, and actually Shane will be working on Thanksgiving, shooting the Thanksgiving Day game, and things, but we are looking at how we can get, trying to get some more kids involved. The AD at the school is a very big proponent of us doing this and is trying to work to get some, whether it be interns or something, to work with Shane and Andy on the sporting events and things. We're still producing, if we're looking at shows that we produce in-house and things that we're looking at, we're still producing the Mayor's Weekly Update, the GCAT Chat, the Senior Moments, obviously City Council, School Committee, Planning Board, Zoning Board. We have added a physical fitness show. We've had some from outside sources that we still mix in as well, but Shane's currently getting ready to shoot the 3rd episode of Reboot, which is done at Fitness Concepts with the CrossFit instructors down there. So it's a 3-camera shoot. It's a good portion of the day to get a half an hour show, but we've started that show. We're currently talking trying to work out a deal with Haywood Hospital for Mike Ellis to host the show like he used to, even though he's still doing the senior center show, to kind of bridge the gap now that they've worked their way back into viability till they can get a person up and going to host the show for the hospital again. We used to have Haywood Health Beat as a show, and we have been in contact with the chamber to get a chamber show started probably after the 1st of the year. And pretty soon we'll be knocking on everybody's doors or shooting everybody emails to try to revive. We're giving Andy another project besides just nighttime things to revive the Chair City story time, where we ask, city employees or librarians or whoever to read their favorite childhood story. What we try to do is go in and have you read 2 or 3 of them at the same time, if the people have the time, and then what we do is we put the pictures of the pages to the storyline and stuff like that. So that's something we want to revive again. I think that's it for production right now. We're having a little issue. We've been shooting some of the shows off-site that are usually shot in the studio, because with the new bell system and PA system that they have at the high school, they're supposed to be able to bypass the studio so that the announcements aren't going on in the middle of a show. But they've been trying to figure it out. When they shut off our room, for some reason, part of the other school got shut off, so they had to start using the all-call again. So they had techs in yesterday, and they have some techs that have to come back again to try to do that. And I don't want to do what I did the last time and just disconnect it and put a switch in, because this is more intricate than the last system we had from, I don't know whether it was Tyco or Simplex Grinnell at the time, but so we're doing that. Equipment-wise, obviously we had just done a major upgrade about 2 years ago now. We had a problem here. Couple times it was iffy, like it started the show and then all of a sudden it went dead in the middle of it, but we were still able to record it and put it out. It was the modulator had gone. I had Comcast come in. Comcast thought it was a bad wire, put it in, it was working great for a month, and then it happened again. So Comcast came in, and actually the modulators are pretty much phased out now. We're using, it's older technology still that we have here. Still works. But that modulator we had was going bad. It had been here since the day we put the studio in here. So luckily Comcast had some spare brand new ones sitting at their head end, and he was able to come back the next day and put a brand new one in. So we're up and running here, more stable again. but all the equipment is going well. I will need to be purchasing like a new KVM switch, and I don't know if you know KVM switch, but what it is, it allows me to run multiple computers off of one screen and one keyboard. So like the computers that are in the rack for the television station at the high school, there are multiple computers that make up everything for the station. There's a video playback, there's the video on demand one, there is the graphics one, and then there's one that does the scheduling. And instead of having to have four modular monitors, 4 keyboards, 4 mice, what I can do is have one system that you can open up the drawer, see the screen, and then choose which computer you want to work on. And that one has finally gone after about 15 years, so I have gotten a quote for a new one of them. That should fit well within my budget that I already have approved for equipment and things. And unfortunately, it still works, but one of our cameras that we had bought is starting to have an issue on the digital zoom. So you can use a regular if you only go to a certain point of the zoom, but as soon as you go into the digital zoom on it, we get a line across it. So I'm in the process of trying to find out how much that's gonna cost me to get repaired, or whether it's more feasible to just replace the camera and maybe move up to one that actually integrates the scoreboard system from the field into it, or something. So that's the only bad news I had. One of the things we're gonna be looking for, hopefully prior to April, which I'd have to go back to council for, obviously, is we're at the point where we'd like to kind of boost up Andy to more hours, bring him up to full-time hours. I know he's running into a point where he's going to be losing access to his father's benefits. As he's getting older, I thought he still had a couple more years, but I don't know whether it has to do with school or whatnot, that he's only taking a couple classes a semester. So he had expressed interest in doing that, and he's worked for us for a long time, so I really don't want to lose him. And we can put him to work with him. He's doing more sports, so when he does a game on a Friday night or a game on a Saturday night, we only have him for like maybe 12 hours during the week. A city council, school committee meeting takes up time, the zoning, on a week where it's zoning, planning, and a meeting. We pretty much don't see him in the studio working on any other project because he's tied up with this, and if he's doing a game on a Friday night or a Saturday night too as well. So I have to look at that, look at budget numbers and things like that, and talk to him and make sure that he wants to stay as a full-time. I don't know what the lowest number for full-time hours is to be considered full-time, so I have to sit and talk with HR director when she's back and stuff, and go over all that. So we've also been doing a lot more of like the grant announcements that the mayor's been able to do. I know, Ellen, you've been at them, and Judy, when there's something that's come up that we've gotten a grant for, but we're able to talk about, there's a big pressure for it, especially a lot of the back road behind the police station and stuff like that. Shane has been able to go shoot that during the day, turn it around, it gets up on YouTube, but it also goes on to the TV station, because I've always had this policy, we get paid for by cable funds, so that if it doesn't go on television, we don't shoot it just to put it up on television. Up on YouTube. And that's one of the things the mayor and I have been talking about for a little while, about which would help fund Andy. Yeah. Or, that position would be able to have, doing some more of that just YouTube stuff that the city needs shot, or things like that. So that's something I have to sit down and make an appointment, sit down with the mayor to talk further about, but this just kind of came up, so I'm, trying to put it in front of you guys, just so you see that it might be coming. Which I think is great that we're able to do that, because not only does it bolster the mayor's update, but we can also, if it's a longer one, we put it on as a standalone. A lot of times he'll talk about it in the mayor's update if it happened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week, and then we tag it on to the end of it. So it's not just a 5-minute little thing, but people can see that whole presentation. We had a couple shows that we've done that I've had people reach out to me and say that the Gardner Cultural Committee or something has paid for or sponsored the show. I've never heard from the Cultural Council before, but it's music. It's a music show and it's been a couple of years now that we get it. So, that's kind of nice. It's an outside source of piano music that this same company the same performers keep coming back year after year with it, so it gives us something nice during the summertime to do. We're heading into Christmas, so of course I know the music is gonna have to change on the TV station, which leads me to one of my other issues. And I'm trying to stay as cheap as I possibly can, but we have lost the webpage that we used to use as a provider for backgrounds and motion backgrounds and music. They went out of business. One day they were working, the next day there was a message on the graph on the page that said they were no longer in business. So I've started to reach out to some other access stations to find out what they do. Some just run the radio station, but we're not supposed to be running commercials. So by playing a radio station, one of the things that I've contemplated is actually starting our own radio station, an internet radio station. And what that allows us to do is it gives us more rights for regular music to be able to play on the internet radio station that we actually then use to feed the station. I don't know anything about it, I've just heard about it, so I'm looking at that as an option. I don't know if that costs more money, that's not probably the way we're gonna go. We'll probably just find a webpage to provide more music and things, and then we'll have the stroll and the tree lighting coming up. We'll have we'll be the only place, as far as I know, that's doing the Memorial Lights scroll. I know it's, people look at it and go, it's boring, it's on 3 or 4 times a day, but it's a place where the people can see those people that they're doing it in memory of or in honor of, and we do it once before programming, once after programming, and during the day, and then once or twice in the middle of the day, depending on what we have for a schedule for meetings and things like that. It's kind of where we're at right now.
Any questions now? No? Good.
And so you're fully at staff, right? You have all your,
I have 2.5 people.
okay.
Yep, well, 2 and a 16-hour person, so, yeah, we were lucky when we got Shane. I knew we needed somebody right away. Matt had worked with Shane before at AOTV. I knew he was pretty comfortable at AOTV, so I was really surprised that he decided to come, but one of his perks for him is that it's 2.2 minutes away from his house, and stuff, so I know he still does some extra side work for them or something like that, like as a volunteer, but it's not on our time, so it doesn't really matter. And things, so, yeah, I'm really happy with who we have. That's why I really want to maybe look at that, pushing Andy up to that full-time stuff, because we've had him and he still has some more college left, and I don't want to, lose him, someone that we're working with now. Doesn't mean that we won't have to get someone later. Of course we'll have to get someone later. But maybe that'll be Shane's problem when it's time to get somebody new.
Well, thank you. I mean, you've been doing cable, you've been there for a long time, and
24 years.
it was 24?
24 years this past September.
And, you guys cover so much, and you're always at everything, and, it's a great service to the city, and I know a lot of people rely on WGET for everything, and, besides finding out that when there's no school, and,
Well, I'll tell you, it'll be sad to see the librarian go, because she sends me stuff. Actually, we shot a show this past year that she hosted, a speaker at the About Ticks. And we actually were invited to shoot it over there. A couple of her other ones we couldn't because of, show contracts or whatever. And then we were able to shoot. The library hosted one of their events over there. The last one that they did, the last one in the series, was hosted at the library, so.
well, I'm sure that's something that the trustees can keep into account
Yeah,
with the new
well, we have
hire
one
and
here.
continuing
One of the things that we've been able to
that
do is,
relationship.
their slides have, we've been able to go on Facebook and grab their stuff, so put it on there, so I hope they still continue to do that, because it gets it out there for people.
Thank you, because the one thing is, along was the meeting that we had, that we did, hold at the library of the welfare committee meeting, but, the veterans working with the department working with the library, and everybody just
Absolutely.
working together, the senior, center and everything, the intercollaboration of the departments is just, is wonderful.
We did
to
with the
see.
children's show, we would just go down and grab they'd pick out 3 or 4 books for the season for us, and then we could go get somebody to read it. Unfortunately, that kind of show left precedence when we were in the process of finding match replacement and some other things, and now it sat too long that we haven't been doing it, so I want to get it going again, and hopefully we'll be able to do that, get them to lend us some books, because high school where I work doesn't have the right books for children,
No,
so,
thank you
all
very
right,
much.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Councilors, questions, concerns, comments? Counselor Brooks, anything? Counselor Delano?
Not this time, no?
I don't have anything. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.